Today we're going to talk to you about the rules about the One Piece trading card game. If you've never played before, I'm going to give you a brief overview about how the game works. It's pretty simple. So to begin with, I'm going to use magic terminology for a lot of this stuff because that's where my base is from, that's where I kind of better know the game, so we're going to explain from there. Start off with, this is your leader card. So One Piece is just like Commander in that you basically have a commander at all times, and they drive the color of your deck. That can only be the same colors that your leader is. So in this case, my deck is yellow. I can only have yellow cards in my deck. That being said, they also have a life total here, and this is how many life cards you have. In order to win a game of One Piece, what you have to do is hit your opponent's leader to deplete all of their life cards and then hit them one additional time. Usually the more colors your deck is, the fewer life cards you have. Also, this is the leader's power, and this also can vary depending on the leader. As an example, this is Ace, who has blue and red color, so you can have blue and red cards in your deck, but he has 6,000 power as opposed to 5,000, but only starts with 3 life as opposed to 5. Now, next up we'll go over the resources. In One Piece, they're called Dawn. This is a Dawn card. They can have different arts on them, but they will all say your turn 1,000 at the bottom. These are Dawn cards. Going first, on your first turn, you get 1 Dawn card. And every other turn for every other player, it's 2 Dawn cards a turn. And you are guaranteed 2 Dawn cards a turn up to the maximum of 10 Dawn cards. Your total pool is 10. You will use these to both pay for costs and attach to characters. We will go over to the attaching part later on. But the important part right now is they'll pay for costs. Next up, we have character cards. So this is a character. Up here in the top left, this is the cost to put the card from your hand into play. So in order to play Holly from my hand, I will take 3 of my Dawn cards, rest them to indicate that they've been used, and I will place Holly into play. Other important facts about this card also has 5,000 base power. It's a strike type. It doesn't come up too often, but occasionally it can. Here we have its name, and we have the type of the card. So essentially, in creature types in Magic, that's what these are for. So this is an animal and a Sky Island card. So any card that looks for, say, a Sky Island card or an animal card, it can find this. And lastly, there's a number on the side here you might be confused about, which is counter plus 1,000. We'll talk about that later when we talk about combat. So besides characters, you can also have stages. Stages have a blue border, and basically they're like enchantments in Magic. You play them for the cost. This one has an on-play effect, so on-play is just like ETB. Both you and your opponent can have a single stage. When you play another stage, it will take the existing stage and put it in the trash. So almost more like global enchantments, but each one gets one. That's a very old reference. If you haven't played Magic that long, don't worry about it. And then last up, the last card type is an event. Events you can use as spells. There are events that take place on your main effect, and they will say main, or events that take place on your opponent's turn, which say counter. So this is an event that costs 1, and it's a counter event, which means it's played only during your opponent's turn. The way this game generally works, in Calgar's case, he has 5 life. So what you will do, you would shuffle up your deck, you would draw 5 cards. And so you draw your first hand, and if you like it, you may keep it. If you don't like it, you'll take that hand, shuffle it into your deck, and you'll draw a new hand of 5 cards. Except once you mulligan once, that is a hand you keep. You cannot take a new hand. So my new hand looks like this. Now, before the game starts, your life cards, you'll take the top that many cards of your deck and put them to your side. This is your life total. Once these cards are depleted, and you get hit one more time, you lose the game. I'll play out my first turn, and I'll show you kind of how this works. For my first turn, I don't draw a card because I'm going first. And because I'm going first, I only get 1 Dawn card active. So I have my 1 Dawn card. I play it, and now I look at my hand. Do I have anything I can play? Yes, I have a card I can play. It costs 1. I will play it. Pay 1. And use the ability, which lets me look at the top 5 cards for a Sky Island card. I can look at the top 5 and see I have a couple cards that are Sky Island cards. In this case, sure, I'll take this one and put it into my hand because it is Sky Island type. Now I pass my turn to my opponent. They take their turn, except they draw a card and go to 2 Dawn. They pass it back to me. Your leader, by the way, cannot attack on the first turn. Imagine all the characters in this game, it's like Magic, they have summoning sickness, they can activate abilities, but you can only attack if it says so, or if they have Rush. So, go to my second turn, I will ramp 2 Dawn, so I go to 3, and I will draw a card. So, now, I want to attack. Let's say my opponent is playing Ace. So what I can do, I can attack my opponent. But in order to attack my opponent, I have to at least tie their attack stat. The tie goes to the attacker. So what I will do is I can take a Dawn here, and I can actually place it onto my character. And what this does is it says, for this turn only, my character gets 1,000 extra power. So now I can attack my opponent's leader. He has 6,000 power. So now I have 6,000 power coming at 6,000 power. Certain cards we talked about earlier have this counter of 1,000 or 2,000 in some cases on the side. What this means is on the defense, say I'm Ace. He's attacking me for 6,000, 6,000. In order to not take any damage here, I have to make my character 7,000 at least. So I can take this card from my hand that says counter 1,000 and discard it on the defense. Because I'm discarding it and it says plus 1,000 power, Ace now goes to 7,000 and he doesn't take any damage. So my attack doesn't go through. Your characters never die on the attack, you can only die on the defense. So, I'll show what this means. So now let's progress the board, say, a little bit. Let's say, this is my opponent's turn. So here's a couple options. If they want, my opponent can attack myself. You can always attack the leader, that is always an option. Or they can attack Wiper, because he is rested. Whenever you attack with a character, they become rested for that turn, which means they have both been used for attacking and are vulnerable on defense now. So my opponent can either attack into my Wiper to try to kill its character and destroy him, or they can attack my life, and if he attacks my life, and I don't counter out of it, so I don't pitch cards in my hand, I then take this card from my life, and I put it into my hand. So think of it like Pokemon prize cards, but instead of getting prizes for successfully destroying your opponent's Pokemon, you get prize cards as a catch-up mechanic. So every time I got hit, I get to take a life card and put it into my hand. So I get to draw a card, essentially. Or my opponent can, of course, attack into this character and kill this character. Last, some cards have a thing called Trigger. What Trigger means is if this card was in my life, and I were to get hit and draw this card, instead of putting this card into my hand, I can activate the Trigger. Activating Trigger means that do whatever is on this card, and then if it has some effect that isn't playing it, for instance, some events have triggers, you use the effect, and then you place a card in your trash. In this case, this trigger says, play this card. So I will play this card on my opponent's turn and get to use the on-play effect. There's also some cards which have effects like this. Some say things like Dawn ×1. What this means, if you see a black circle, is it means that if a Dawn is attached to this card in this quantity, at least this quantity, this ability is enabled. So for instance, this is Dawn ×1 when attacking. What this means is if I have at least one Dawn on this character and I attack, the ability is turned on. But if there's no Dawn attached, it's just not on. It doesn't mean that I have to pay an additional cost. I could put this Dawn on, make him 6,000 power, and not use the ability. But it means that the ability is available as long as the Dawn is attached. There's a couple other keywords. Rush, described, is like haste. Double attack is similar to double strike, but it means that if I hit the leader, I hit them for 2 life cards as opposed to 1. Banish means if you get hit by a banish attack in your life, instead of drawing the card off life, it goes directly to trash. You don't get to put it into your hand, it just gets discarded. And then also, there's cards that have blocker. The blocker says, so for instance, if my opponent has this blocker, and I want to attack my opponent's leader, and I declare an attack on my opponent's leader, there's 2 steps to combat. So when I attack, I declare attackers. Opponent has 2 options to either say, okay, cool, that is the target I'm allowing, or they can then rest their blocker and instead intercept the attack. You do not have to attack a blocker in order to block, but you can only switch the target of attacks with a blocker. So, for instance, if they attacked me with Uta, I don't have a blocker. So wherever they are attacking is the attack target. I cannot change it. But if I'm attacking Ace because they have a blocker, they can instead rest Uta and say, okay, I don't pitch any cards. Uta will die, but now Ace doesn't take any damage and is no longer the attack target. If they decide not to use blocker, this is when they would pitch cards from their hand. And in fact, if you declare a blocker, you can pitch cards from your hand to also save that character. So these are the basics of the One Piece card game. You'll see the game as we go along and play the progression series, but this is kind of a brief overview to give you an idea of how the game works. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer. This game is not that complicated, but this game has a very low floor of entry, but a very high skill ceiling. And you'll see it as we go along that this game has a lot of depth to it, and it's extremely fun, knowing when to attach Dawn or to play characters out, when to keep cards in the hand or when to pitch them, when to take hits to life to draw more cards and have a greater card advantage, or when to apply pressure, or maybe not apply pressure to not give your opponent cards. There's so many lines of play in this game, and it's extremely interesting. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you stick around for the rest of the series. I hope to see you on the high seas.